Hey, good morning, big bikers. Well, we are in South Australia again. Well, we'll say again. If you've been on the Facebook page, you would have seen that I went back to Queensland to see my kids. And it's about 3 weeks, maybe a little bit, maybe 4 weeks since I've been for a ride. So Mrs. Jones has been screaming at me to go for a ride, so we're going for a ride. But it's hot, it's going to be hot. It's 30 degrees now, it's just on midday, but and I should have gone out earlier. I did mean to go out much earlier than this, but you know, it's not going to be a big ride today. I've got my summer jacket back on, I've got my mesh coat on. So I was looking at a map the other day, and what's left of the mapping. We will talk about HEMA and what they've done. But, I was looking at a map and I went, oh, there looks like an interesting road along top of a ridge, so we're going to go and see if we can find that today. Traction control off. So it's not going to be a big ride. I don't like going out when the heat is on. It's actually really quite draining. I mean, if I can avoid it, obviously. And I say that with all empathy to you guys that are just coming out of winter. What are we, early March? So you guys are just coming out of winter, early spring for a lot of you fellas in the Northern Hemisphere. So I hope that the weather is nice enough for you to go riding very soon. So thoughts are with you, but you know, can't do much about it. So the last time that we went riding, I think it was at the top of the Barossa Way, and after that what it is, I moved the caravan down to Adelaide and left the caravan at the showgrounds because they've got 24-hour secure parking, so I wanted to leave it there while I flew back to Brisbane to see my kids. And I then came back from Brisbane after having a fantastic time. Just caught up with all my mates and my daughters and you know, lots of people that are important in my life. So I caught up with them again, which was good. And then I came back down to Brisbane. Actually, while I was up in Brisbane, I had a mate of mine say, look, if you're down in South Australia, I need you to go and have a look. Could you, well, I don't need you to. He said, can you go and have a look at a block of land for me? I went, sure, where is it? He said, it's on Kangaroo Island. I went, oh, okay, because the last few times I've tried to get to Kangaroo Island, the weather had not been cooperating at all. So he's gone, look, I'll pay for the ferry to get over. I just need you to go and put eyes on this property. So he's looked at Google Earth and Street View and all that sort of stuff. But if you're going to be dropping, you know, some money on a block of land, you're going to want a set of eyes on it. So I took the Land Cruiser over and all the camera gear, and I went over to check out the block of land for him. He paid for the ferry, which was good because it was about $390. Yeah, so I went and spent a couple of days at Kangaroo Island, and what a fantastic place. It's an amazing history. Now, I'm laughing. Oh, look at that. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Sorry, I'm just going to show you something. Remember the one of the videos we had, I talked about that pipeline that goes from Morgan all the way to Whyalla, and they've got these mile markers or kilometre markers all the way along. So this one's kilometre 177. Now I can remember, I think we went past one on that ride, it was like 34 or something, kilometre 34. Might not even have been that. It would have been much lower because it was just outside Morgan. So you get 177, kilometre 177 from Morgan on the way to Whyalla. So we're kind of halfway through. You probably can't see it, but up on top of the hill over there, there's a whole heap of big water tanks, water storage tanks. So obviously pump it up into there and then distribute and repump from there But yeah, that's the pipeline. That's the same pipeline. So it was a big engineering job for those boys. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with what I was talking about. So anyway, I was down at Kangaroo Island, and I'll just put some footage in there because it was just, you know, there's the seal colony down at the south end of the island. There's a seal colony there, which we're just having a fantastic time. I used to think it was the dog's life, but it's definitely a seal's life, unless they're in the water being hunted by great white sharks, of course. But these guys are having a great time. So yeah, I went to Cape de Cody, I think it is, Cape de Cody Lighthouse. The big pile of rocks just sitting right on top of a cliff, just amazing. And oh look, you know, the beaches, all that sort of stuff. It's a very, very pretty place. But Kangaroo Island got absolutely smashed by the fires. It's going to take a little bit of time for that to recover, and a lot of the roads were destroyed by the fire. That's how bad it was. A lot of the public structures in the national park, you know, the toilets and all the facilities and shelters and all that sort of stuff got completely destroyed, so they're busy rebuilding a lot of that. Now, a lot of the places weren't open, but I only had a couple of days there, so it was fine. But yeah, nice beaches you could drive on, and the scenery is just fantastic. Lots of jetties, lots of history, and I've got a couple of messages from people saying, well, don't leave us hanging. Tell us a story about Kangaroo Island and, you know, why it is so important. So I'm going to do that, but so it's called Tank Hill. You see here on a map, it's called Tank Hill, all these tanks up on the hill. But I've got to take a turn off just up here. No traffic behind me. Put the back camera on. Tank Hill. There we are, that's the one I want. Ooh, it's a bit of a dodgy location. This is part of the Hasten Trail. Scenery. Road's almost the same colour as the surrounding bush, so it's very hard to get a feel of where it is. I didn't fill up before I left, so I'm just going to keep an eye on the fuel. There's a few small towns kind of scattered around here, so I think I should be alright. But I will be keeping an eye on that. Might have to bail out halfway through one of these rides. So where I am now is at the southern end. They're kind of on the Remarkable Ranges up here a little bit. And we're on the southern end of the Flinders Ranges. This is where the Flinders Ranges start around here, so they call it, the region's called the Southern Flinders region. Napoleon, and we don't hear too much about it in Australian history because our history is traditionally British. It's probably the same in Canada and the UK. We don't hear too much about the French history. So if my numbers aren't exactly correct, please forgive me. But it was in the late 1700s that Napoleon Bonaparte married Josephine, some long French name, and he married her, and he then went off to war because he was a conqueror. He had small man syndrome, so he wanted to rule the world. So he went off and he went and had a war in Egypt, and he was trying to take over and win Africa. While he was away, Josephine bought a block of land and a ruined chateau. In 1799 she bought it. She bought this chateau, again, 1799. She paid 300,000 francs in 1799. While Napoleon was away at war, like any good wife would, she's right, I'm buying a house. So she's gone ahead and just bought the house. 300,000 francs in 1799, so it's a pretty flash place. It's about 20 kilometres outside of Paris, and is today one of their major landmarks. But anyway, one of the things that she wanted to do was to build a zoo at this chateau. So she wanted to have animals from all over the world there. So any of the explorers or the campaigners that went out, they were told they had to bring back animals, and so in 1802, when Nicolas Baudin, and he came down, I can't remember the name of the other guy, but he was on the La Géographe, which was the French vessel. There were two of them, but he was sailing along the southern edge of Australia, along the Great Australian Bight, and it was actually Nicolas Baudin who circumnavigated Kangaroo Island for the first time, and then kind of they worked out it was an island, not a peninsula, and so Kangaroo Island, they gave it a French name, but it was later renamed, and anyway. But on the island at the time, because Kangaroo Island had been separated from Australia, during the Ice Age or whatever, when the water levels raised up, and then it got separated, the emus on Kangaroo Island evolved into these dwarf, so they were really short and they were black, unlike our bush chooks and emus that we have on the mainland Australia that are kind of like a browny colour like this, so they can hide in this. On Kangaroo Island, these emus that they had developed into these sort of dwarf, they're called dwarf emus, but they were black, so they were unique to Kangaroo Island. Like a lot of the wildlife and fauna on Kangaroo Island kind of evolved, into not anywhere else in Australia. So Nicolas Baudin grabbed a male and a female of these emus, along with some other animals, and a couple of chick eggs, and he took them on his boat back to France. There's a story about Nicolas not making it back to France, but the boat made it back, and the fauna samples made it back. And he took something like when he came down to Australia as a French explorer, he took back with him something like 10,000 samples of Australian flora and fauna, seeds and plants and all that sort of stuff. And in fact, if you're ever in the south of France and you see wattle trees and eucalypts growing, that's where they came from. They actually came from that Nicolas Baudin expedition. So anyway, he took the emus back and some wallabies and all that sort of stuff, and he gave them to Napoleon, who gave them to Josephine, and she put them in the zoo that she had built. And there were llamas and just exotic wildlife from all over the world in this thing. There's just a real story. Go and Google Josephine Zoo, but it was a real, back in the early 1800s, it was just amazing. Anyway, then there was the, Napoleon lost the Waterloo to Nelson, and got deposed, and then, but anyway, and then the zoo got ransacked and all that sort of stuff happened. So that was kind of the mid 1800s. Anyway, while that was going on in Europe, let's go and see if the reservoir is closed. Okay, Crystal Brook, Laura. All right, so while all that was going on in Europe, back on Kangaroo Island, the sealers, there's a fox. So the whalers and the sealers had turned up and set up a base on Kangaroo Island, and they were killing and eating everything. And in fact, they killed and ate the emus, the dwarf black emus. They killed and ate them into extinction on Kangaroo Island. So there's an interesting twist to the fate of the dwarf emus of Kangaroo Island. The very, very last surviving emus of Kangaroo Island actually died in this zoo in France, which I think has been it's a fascinating story. So that was. I mean, there's a whole heap. If you go and do a bit of a research on Nicolas Baudin and his relationship with Napoleon and all that sort of stuff, it's very, very interesting. But all right, that's enough history. We've been riding, of course, but how interesting that the last remaining dwarf emus of Kangaroo Island actually died in France and are now completely extinct, gone forever. Alright, I'll come back and talk to you. I think I'm going to get some fuel. According to the map, this one goes somewhere, but like I said, I am watching the fuel. I've got a small margin of error. Very much. As the front end went out from underneath me, rolling on some marbles. Strictly no motorbikes. Please ride on the designated track. Trespassing on private property. Stock inside. Please ride slowly and ring your bell. Alright, so we can't go that way because no motorcycles. Bugger. Bugger, bugger, bugger. So we might have to go back out on the highway. Sort of road the farmers use to link up a couple of the roads. should link up with a more major road, but it just looks like a, like I said, just a track to link up two other tracks. I didn't know I was coming this way. Please leave the gate as you find it, of course, as with all gates. Yes. Should be interesting here in the wet. This kind of stuff by myself. I have got my Garmin with me, but you know, first option is not to use it. This might be the end of it, hopefully. Just, it looks like there's a like linking up with a proper road up here somewhere. Yes, there's somebody's driveway, so we should be getting closer. There's that tower. Alright, we're going in the right direction. Okay. Here we go. We're Forest. Let's go there. This is Charcoal Road for all you locals. I've got to tell you, it's going to be touch and go. I can't tell whether or not the road goes through or not. Certainly goes up to the top of the hill. You can see there's quite a... Let's go. You can hear I'm short shifting. I'm just riding really, really conservatively. Just I can see on the map the track goes to the top of the hill where this tower is, and then it's just a matter of whether or not the track across the ridge actually goes down the other side. I mean, it looks like it could do. Oh dear. No entry to unauthorised personnel. This track is required. So that's obviously the track up to the comm tower, which they've got closed off. Oh well, very disappointing. Just need to work out what I'm doing now. Alright, I'll figure it out and I'll come and talk to you. This one's called Avonmore Road. I'll put it in there, but it's basically taking me straight towards an intersection on the highway where I'm hoping, it looks like a fairly major intersection. I'm just hoping that there'll be a servo there. I think this is the only way I'm going to get around that range, is because it doesn't look like there's any dirt roads that go over the top of it, so I'm going to have to go around it on the bitumen by the look of things. Again, this is a dry weather road only. That red dirt. White Park Road. This is... I think we're going to be good. Called Germain Gorge Road, I think it is.
And we're flying so close to where we belong, and we're trying to go somewhere new. And I try to crack this iceberg open till it shatters through the ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current till the waves flood what's been burning. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. And I know I'm only getting higher till it feels like I can walk through fire.
Go out of the gorge, out of the hills, and out into Port Germain. That's the Spencer Gulf right there. I don't know whether you can see it fair well. This is Spencer Gulf, so that's the right at the top of the York Peninsula, and then looking over towards the Eyre Peninsula over on the other side. The start of the Eyre Peninsula. She's shocking road up there, mate. Take it easy. There's that pipeline. Now they got it through the range. So that's the Morgan to Whyalla pipeline. I've got a little bit of fuel up my sleeve. Just going to duck down here and see if we can have a look at get down to the water. Down to the top of the Spencer Gulf. drive on that. Say so. I don't know if this is soft or not. It looks like it's starting to get a bit soft. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's not even much point in putting the drone up because it's just all sand. Alright, so we have filled up with fuel. Took 17.5 litres, that's not bad, had about a litre left. Plenty. Alright, big bikers, it's the end of the ride. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, tune in for more exciting updates. Yeah, it's just brown and dry, isn't it? Brown, but it's all wheat belt country, so, you know. Anyway, big bikers, that's it for this ride. I shall talk to you again. Ride safe. Thanks for dropping in. Over and out.